Starting something new is honestly terrifying. I remember when we launched Wife of Crime, all the what ifs hit at once. What if no one listens? What if this doesn't work? But sometimes taking the leap turns out to be the best decision you can make, especially when you've got the right tools behind you. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses. 10% of all e-commerce in the United States uses Shopify. You can build a beautiful online store with ready-to-use templates, use built-in AI tools to write product descriptions or enhance your product photos, and even run email and social campaigns like you've got a full marketing team backing you. Plus, that iconic Shop Pay checkout helps boost conversions so fewer carts get abandoned. It's time to turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/wifeofcrime1. Go to shopify.com/wifeofcrime1. That's shopify.com/wifeofcrime1.
Halliday presents, in the red corner, the undisputed, undefeated weed whacker guy. Champion of hurling grass and pollen everywhere. And in the blue corner, the challenger, extra strength Halliday. Eye drops that work all day to prevent the release of histamines that cause itchy allergy eyes. And the winner by knockout is Halliday. Halliday, bring it on.
This podcast is an unscripted, unedited conversation about true crime. We take the cases very seriously, but I don't take myself seriously at all, and neither should you. Welcome to Wife of Crime.
So, Russ, this is part 2 of our Epstein series. In part 1, I told you where they came from, how Jeffrey built his wealth, how Ghislaine reinvented herself, and how the two of them met. I also told you about the plea deal in 2008 that should have ended this case right then. But in part 2, we are going deeper, and it's going to get really dark. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Wife of Crime, a true crime podcast where I tell my husband, Russ, true crime stories and he reacts to them.
What's up, folks? It's your boy Russ, a.k.a. 3 episodes in 2 days, and then probably a true crime and chill tomorrow.
Yeah.
A.k.a. this is, I don't know, where's the Department of Labor?
AKA, you got to call your union rep.
Yo. Anybody want to be my rep?
I mean, I
ain't even getting no OT.
No, you're not. You're not getting any OT. I am your boss, so...
That's what we choose to let these women think.
Whatever I say
Cat's
goes.
out the bag. Sorry, fellas.
Except you're sitting across from me doing it, so
I'm doing it for them.
To it. Oh, you're doing it for them. You're
Yeah.
not doing it for me. Okay. So we're just going to jump into it. This is a continuation of our series on Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell and the entire Epstein case. So I really just stayed surface oriented. I went into their past, where they came from, how they grew up.
We learned about the toe.
We learned about the horrible non-prosecution agreement, which was drafted by Alex Acosta, Alex the Toe Acosta, as Russ referred to him.
Fucking moldy ass stubby toe.
And then made a reel about it.
Oh yeah, we made a picture. I used AI to make him a big toe. Check it out on Instagram. Did you put it on Facebook?
I think I put it on Facebook too. Yeah. So it's on the social media. But yeah, we covered kind of the surface layer last time. If you haven't listened to that one, stop now and go back and listen, because it gives you a lot of context, a lot of foundation. And I really set up the story. And now we're going to go into the interworkings of this entire organization. And it is deep. I have been inside of the rabbit hole for weeks, I feel like.
I feel like you could probably be in this Epstein file for the rest of your life if you really wanted to keep looking into stuff. There's millions of pages that came out, and there are millions more missing that we need to see as well.
Yeah.
Because obviously people are being protected.
Oh, yeah, for sure. People are being protected.
And whoever protects a pedophile, to me, is just as guilty as a pedophile. They all need to suffer. I think this would be a perfect example of street justice to me. Like, oh, you thought you were ruling the world?
Yeah.
No, this is a public execution. The people are in charge, not you.
Yeah, and I think that's like the overwhelming lesson here. And we'll talk about it when part 3, I go into kind of why this hasn't come out until now. I'm going to talk about that. And the overwhelming lesson is that people have power. We, the people, have the power to push these people in our government to release these things, because they had no intention of getting this out there. None of them. I don't care who it is on either side. This is
it goes back multiple presidents, because they had information on this too, and they didn't let it out either.
Yeah.
So it's because probably, there's a good amount of them in it.
Yeah, it's the billionaires that run the world never thought this was going to come out. And it just shows how narcissistic and how untouchable they think they are, and how untouchable they actually were.
They have been.
Until the people got loud and demanded.
We need to keep going.
So
we need justice. Other countries are arresting these fucking pedos, and we're over here looking like it's all right to fuck kids if you know the right people.
Yeah, it's really bad how we're looking on the world stage. So in this episode, I'm going to take you deep into this entire thing. I am 100% naming names, okay? And I'm bringing receipts. And everything I'm about to tell you is facts. So I'm just telling you that right now.
We're not taking a political stand at all.
At all, no.
Just letting you guys know.
I want everybody to know that I hate all of them.
And you know which way I lean. There's a radical left, there's a radical right. I'm from the Bronx, so I lean back.
Yes, you do. You always say that. It's funny. Okay. Here we go. Part 1 was about understanding how Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell came together. The money, the access, the illusion of legitimacy. But part 2 is where we stop looking at them from the outside and start stepping into the world they actually built.
I'm not looking forward to this.
Yeah,
I know it's going to get uncomfortable. I don't mean the story or whatever, but some of the information I know that's coming.
Yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable.
I don't know what you're going to say, but I know that they done a lot of bad shit.
It's going to get uncomfortable a few times. And I need to be honest with you before we go any further. This is not a normal world. It doesn't operate by the same rules many of us live by. The wealth, the access, the people moving through their world. It's like watching reality bend into something else entirely. Like they're living on a different plane where consequences move slower and power shields everything underneath of it. Because while the rest of us saw headlines about a financier and a socialite, behind the scenes, something far more organized was taking shape. A system, a network, a structure that didn't just appear overnight. It grew quietly through connections, through trust, through manipulation, and through a culture where proximity to power made you untouchable. Like I mentioned at the end of part 1, if you've never read Dante's Inferno, which is a part of an old Italian poem called The Divine Comedy, the narrator travels downward through the 9 circles of hell, each one revealing a different kind of sin, from lust and excess to fraud and betrayal. And what makes it so haunting isn't fire or monsters. It's the structure, the architecture of it. Every layer is more disturbing and more calculated than the one before it. Evil isn't always chaotic. It can be organized. And honestly, that's the only way I know how to describe what we're about to walk into. It's what I visualize every time I read more about this case. Because this part of the story isn't just about who Epstein and Maxwell were. It's about how their world functioned, how recruitment worked, how influence moved, how a network formed around them that included money, status, secrecy, and people who existed in a reality most of us will never see up close. Because we're poor compared to them. We're broke. We are nothing compared to them.
No, money doesn't mean anything to them. They don't pay attention.
No.
So like whatever they want, they get. That's it. It isn't like, oh, how much is that? Like, I'll just take that. Yeah, that's cool. Or
yeah, it's crazy. This case is about how powerful men and women use children as currency.
Motherfuckers.
So consider this the moment we step past the surface and start the descent downward, layer by layer, circle by circle, into something dark, calculated, and way more unsettling than anything we've covered on our show before. This is a trigger warning. We don't cover cases about children pretty much ever. We have done it very few and far between. But I will be talking about children in the next two parts. I will read some of the emails, depositions, and interviews with victims that have been released. I will also offer receipts because nothing I am telling you in this part is hearsay. This is all documented. I will provide the file numbers and screenshots, and you can feel free to go on the Department of Justice website and look them up yourself if it isn't already deleted, because that's happening.
Yeah. But whatever has been put out, I guarantee is out there.
Oh, yeah. People have screenshots.
Of course. People downloaded every single file immediately.
Yeah.
So for our government to think that them deleting it makes it go away.
Yeah, they're so stupid.
Blows my fucking mind. How stupid are you? Someone's like, oh, just delete it. It's out. Once something is on the internet, it's out.
We have coders that have already taken all the files that have been released, set it up like a Gmail account. Like that's the way the screen
like you're looking
looks.
into Epstein's email.
Yeah, and you can literally click on it and you can divide it all by name. It's so much more organized that way. And we have people who can code in this country. Like I don't understand what these people are thinking.
Who's the idiot that said delete it and it'll be gone forever?
Yeah.
Like what grandpa that works in that fucking department, like he's the one when you call on the phone to troubleshoot something, they just always tell you to restart it.
Yeah. Tell you the most obvious solutions.
Yeah.
In part 3, we will talk through conspiracy theories and how we feel about this information dump and rumors and all the things. But in this episode, I'm coming to you with straight facts, whether you like it or not.
We're going to call these dead-ass facts.
Dead-ass facts. Personally, I like the truth. I want the truth. I am always seeking the truth.
I'm not going to say it.
What?
The obvious.
Go ahead.
Nope, I ain't saying it.
Say it.
Nope.
Okay.
It was it's just such low-hanging fruit.
You're too good for that joke?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if someone listening now doesn't get it, your brain is slow.
Your brain didn't click. Okay. So if you're a fan of any of the men and women I'm going to speak about in this episode, sorry, but maybe you need to hear this and sit with your fandom for a second. These people are not our friends. These people are not trying to help us. These people have always and will always look out for their bottom line. It's important to reframe your mind surrounding these powerful people. Understand this isn't your favorite sports team that you root for no matter what. These are humans, ultra wealthy humans who view you and I as disposable.
Yeah, they're not the Jets. You know what I mean? Like no matter what, the Jet fans sit there and suffer an embarrassment.
They do.
But motherfucking the Giants owner is in the damn Epstein files.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Tish. And I used to see them at my job back in the day, at my first like manager or second manager job.
Yeah.
And I used to see them come in.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I just was like, oh, look at this old decrepit family that comes in here.
I wonder what part he played. I haven't looked into him at all.
I didn't look into it much either because I figured it'll just come across my path.
I mean, that job that you worked at, you saw tons of billionaires.
Oh, my goodness. I didn't know who all of them were, but everyone gave black cards. And
yeah.
Like, what's his name from the Beatles? Paul McCartney of being there. And
honestly, you might have come across Epstein, bro.
And
not even known. Because you...
What? All right. Let's stop it like this then. Okay. So if Epstein's in there and I'm in there, what should I do?
And you knew, and we're pretending you know everything.
Yes. What should I do?
You have to poison his food and kill him.
What?
You have to.
But so I'm going to go to jail forever.
No, you got to make it discreet.
It's not that there's cameras in there and everything.
You got to be like a hitman.
This is my opportunity. He's in here. I'm here. What am I going to do?
Well, if you poison his food, you got a better chance of getting off. If you shoot him in the head or cut off his head or stab him, you're going to jail.
Just a regular ass whooping ain't going to work.
No, he's way too protected. He has way too many people.
Yeah, what would I do? What would you guys do? I'm curious. Like, you were there and you know you could have stopped what's going on, but you know you can't tell the cops. But
if you had all the knowledge that we have now, because at the time no one knew.
No, but if you knew, it's like Back to the Future.
Yeah, I would have poisoned him.
So you're going to risk your life and you're going to do that.
Yeah, to poison him, yes.
But see, this is probably going into it too much, but you're in the restaurant now. He's going to be there for an hour. What are you poisoning him with? You don't even know.
I know. You got to act quick.
Yeah.
It's not like you can go just buy arsenic somewhere.
Yeah, like right now in my mind, I'm Denzel Washington in there playing it cool. I'm the cool manager from the Bronx.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And what do you do?
You were so out of place in that spot, too.
For real.
You were so out of place. It's literally the richest neighborhood, and the richest people in the world came in there for lunch all the time. It's just so funny.
Because I don't know why everyone likes me, just because I think that people know I just don't give a fuck.
You're not starstruck.
You. First of all, everyone in New York thinks they're famous. We all think we're being looked at, and that's why we're all fresh all the time.
Yes, true.
So we'd be like they walk in and be like, pfft.
You also don't recognize anyone.
That's true. Even if I know you sometimes.
You were really bad at recognizing faces, so I feel like you just didn't even know any of these people were these uber rich billionaires.
Once in a while, I would just like be bored and I'd look at the credit card and like type in the name, and some of them, I saw a few that were worth like 2, 3, 4 billion.
That's crazy. So these are humans, ultra wealthy humans who view you and I as disposable.
We're their worker ants keeping the economy going so they can get whatever they want.
They can get rich, yeah. With that said, buckle up, because the ride from here only goes one direction, and that's down. Are you ready?
Let's go.
In 1987, Jeffrey Epstein was staying inside an exclusive beachfront estate community in Hilton Head, South Carolina. The kind of place built for privacy where very wealthy families go, they rotate through vacation homes, and the staff moved quietly in the background. One of those properties belonged to a family whose 13-year-old daughter grew up there, and she would help out with babysitting for a lot of the guests who would bring their young children on vacation with them. That's where Epstein noticed her. He invited her to his beach house, even though he had no children and no legitimate reason to ask a 13-year-old to come to his beach house.
Predator.
She didn't understand fully, but she grew up in a world that was surrounded by powerful people. So she always did what she was expected to do, and she always did what adults around her told her to do. Once she's inside his beach house, the environment shifted almost immediately. He began offering her alcohol, not casually, but persistently encouraging her to drink more than she should, pushing past her natural hesitation because she's 13 and she's like, I'm not supposed to drink alcohol, but this is a rich guy and she's used to being around powerful people.
And he's saying it's okay.
And he's saying it's okay. So she, started drinking. As her judgment started to blur, he introduced drugs into the situation, deliberately stripping away her ability to think clearly or understand what was happening around her. She described the feeling as being detached from her own body. She slowed down. She was disoriented. And then he assaulted her.
Yeah, I mean, think of your first time getting super drunk. That's really how it feels.
Yeah. And at this point, Epstein is in his mid to late 30s, and she's 13. Later, she said he photographed her naked while she was passed out. And the images turned that whole situation of violation into leverage. Because when it was over, he didn't just rely on silence. He threatened her directly, telling her that if she spoke to anybody in her family about it, he would hurt her family. For years, the threat held. She was too afraid to say anything to anybody. She said Epstein returned to Hilton Head again and again, and each time, the dynamic repeated itself. A wealthy adult who understood exactly how much control he had, and a child who understood just as clearly how little she had. By the following summer, when she was 14, she was flown to New York on his airplane, and Jeffrey Epstein introduced her to a few of his friends. When he introduced her, he referred to her as fresh meat.
Wow.
He flew her to New York.
Wait, why is she going there?
Because he probably manipulated her parents into letting her come with. He's a very good liar. So as the story goes on, you'll see the type of lies he told people and lies he told parents and things like that.
Wow.
He flew her to New York with him 3 separate times. Just so we're clear, Jeffrey...
She's 14.
14.
These parents are fucking idiots. I don't give a fuck what he says.
Yeah. Just so we're clear, Jeffrey Epstein transported a teenage girl across state lines at least 3 times to traffic her to his friends. He used intimidation and threats to keep her quiet. The scariest part is, he was about to meet Ghislaine Maxwell, the woman who would not only enable his depravity, but would organize it into an entire criminal network. She would become the architect of the Epstein Inferno. Before we go deeper, let's reset the stage, because none of what you're about to hear makes any sense without understanding the moment these two found each other. And I talked about it in part 1. In the early 90s, Ghislaine Maxwell is rebuilding her life in New York after her father died. Remember the whole scandal? Her father died. He fell off the side of the yacht. And then it came out that he stole millions and millions of dollars from his employees' pension funds.
Yeah, so they were saying she's broke.
Mm-hmm.
Like she grew up super rich.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden she's broke.
She's broke.
But she might not be regular broke.
No, she's living off of $100,000 a year trust
That's right.
fund.
So
right?
she's not broke.
But her family is in the middle of this scandal, so she leaves London and she moves to New York City. And she wants to rebuild.
What year was
life.
this?
This was the early 90s.
Man, $100,000 you in the early 90s, you doing good.
Yeah, she bought an Upper East Side apartment.
Yeah.
And she was still hanging out with all of the same company that she had before.
Yeah, she still had the same connections.
Jeffrey Epstein is rising at the same time. He is mysterious. He has a lot of money, powerful friends, and a reputation that feels bigger than anyone can quite explain. Because remember, this is when the whole relationship with Les Wexner and him started.
Such a hard name to say. That is a tongue twister that you are not messing up.
Yeah, I'm trying hard.
I'd be like Wes Nestner.
So when they meet, it isn't just a romantic relationship. It's an alignment. Her access meets his ambition. His money fuels her world. His weaknesses are her strengths and vice versa. And slowly, almost quietly at first, the partnership that would sit at the center of one of the most disturbing, powerful networks in modern history begins to take shape. By the early 90s, Jeffrey Epstein's world is starting to solidify into something that looks from the outside as glamorous and untouchable. The Manhattan townhouse, that massive East 71st Street property that's tied to Les Wexner, becomes more than just a home.
Les Wexner really sounds like a villain name in a movie.
It does. So it becomes more than just a home. It becomes a stage, a place where wealth, influence, and access blur together so seamlessly that it's hard to tell where business ends and something darker begins.
All around this shit, man, because that's where I worked, right? There were all these fucking hello darlings like to hang out.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you were all right there. I mean,
if I wasn't such a don't talk to me person, I would know stuff.
Yeah. Around the same time, Epstein expands south to Palm Beach, purchasing a sprawling mansion where parties and private hush-hush gatherings become weekly occurrences. Later testimony would describe those spaces not just as social hubs, but as environments where very young girls were constantly present and paraded around, sometimes introduced as assistants, sometimes as masseuses, sometimes as aspiring models, sometimes in clothing, sometimes in swimsuits, and sometimes naked.
Motherfuckers.
And it's in this world that the survivors, like Maria Farmer, is brought on scene. Maria wasn't a socialite or a model chasing fame. She was actually an art student. She was young and ambitious, still figuring out who she was when her life intersected with Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. According to her account, one of her paintings had been purchased at an art show, and instead of feeling like this breakthrough moment, it became an entry point into something she didn't quite understand yet. She described being introduced to Epstein and Maxwell as major benefactors for the school that she was in. She was attending college, and the dean of the school came up to her and said, "These are big benefactors. They give us a lot of money, and they want to buy one of your pieces of art."
Oh.
Powerful figures who could open doors for her and catapult her art career. Soon after meeting the two, she said she was offered a job managing art for his New York City townhouse entryway. Like, he literally hired someone
to hang out on his stairs at the inside of his house.
Well, the entryway was gigantic. It was like the size of our apartment in the Bronx.
But he didn't hire her really for that. He wanted her there.
Yes. So he hired her to manage the art in the entryway and also greet guests at the townhouse when they came in.
Wonder how much he
Almost
paid.
like a hostess, you know?
Yeah, I wonder how much he paid.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Maybe that's not abnormal in that amongst rich people, like someone opens the door for you, hey.
Yeah, it could be not abnormal.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know anything about rich people and how they live. One thing to note about Jeffrey is he barely left his homes. People almost always came to him. On paper, it sounded legitimate. This job, it's professional, almost glamorous. She was excited for this opportunity. As a young college girl trying to establish herself in the art world, these people are incredibly rich. This is a connection she needs. But from inside that house, she began noticing patterns that didn't sit right with her. Girls, very, very young girls, coming and going constantly. Some looking nervous, some wide-eyed. Many far younger than these elite guests moving through the same hallways. The explanation she was given sounded harmless enough. It's modeling auditions. Opportunities tied to the brands like Victoria's Secret, the Limited, both connected to Les Wexner's empire. It framed everything in that way, and it felt aspirational rather than weird or alarming.
You know what's crazy? That since he owns Victoria's Secret, he could just want to be a model, and then you'd be like, of course he owns Victoria's Secret.
Exactly. You're gonna see that's exactly what they did.
That's great. That's like no one's gonna say no.
And that framing mattered because it created a world where red flags were disguised as opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
According to Farmer, Maxwell often played the role of the approachable guide. She was warm, polished, almost theatrical.
Hello, darling.
In her charm, exactly. She's a hello, darling. Survivors would later describe her presence as disarming. A polished British accent like a modern-day Mary Poppins. That's how they saw her. She had a confidence that made young girls feel chosen rather than targeted.
Oh, compliments all day. You could see it.
There was almost a maternal energy to it at first glance. The kind of woman who could make you believe that you were stepping into something important. And Farmer said that Maxwell would sometimes announce she was heading out to go get some girls. And witnesses later described drivers being instructed to circle Manhattan streets around the time that schools let out. One chauffeur, his name was Juan Alessi, would later testify that Maxwell would spot girls on sidewalks, ask the car to stop abruptly, and then get out and go approach them with compliments and promises of opportunity. It wasn't aggressive. It was flattering. It was carefully constructed to feel safe. And that's where the pattern deepens, because multiple survivors would later describe almost identical beginnings. A compliment about their looks, a casual conversation about modeling, a suggestion that Epstein's wealth and connections meant real opportunities. The initial contact rarely felt threatening to them. It felt like being invited into a world young teenagers only saw in magazines. It was exciting.
You know, that people dream of being discovered, probably that black car driving up with the driver, the back window rolls down and you're getting discovered.
Yeah, especially in New York City.
Yeah. Well, for people that aren't from New York, people that are from New York, we're probably undiscoverable. Someone roll down the window, even if they're trying to give you $1 million, like, yo, get the fuck away from me, weirdo.
From there, according to testimonies, the girls would be brought back to Epstein's townhouse. They would be led upstairs through hallways lined with art and power, and then the door would close. In depositions years later, Maxwell would deny recruiting anyone for sexual purposes, insisting she was simply just a socialite with no knowledge of any criminal activity. But prosecutors would eventually paint a very different picture, one where she functioned less like a bystander and more like a coordinator, like a madam. Someone who managed logistics, scheduled movements, oversaw staff, and maintained the entire rhythm of the house. Survivors describe that rhythm as relentless. Maxwell herself said under oath in testimony, Epstein told her that doctors told him that he needed multiple orgasms a day.
That's fun. It's the same thing I told you when I met you.
Yeah. So
that is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. So Ghislaine would wait for the middle and high school bells to ring, and like clockwork, would go out into the streets of New York searching for 3 girls per day for Jeffrey. In an episode of Red Handed, they referred to her as the child catcher from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
I got lollipops.
And it literally, like, I can't unsee it. I really can't unsee it.
I can't either.
And it makes my stomach turn when you think of it like that.
They really need to, like, skin this woman alive, but, like, really slow.
Yeah.
And, like, until she screams out the other people's name because she's not the only one, and she knows others.
Yeah.
This, like, people this evil, you could take down evil empires by, like, forcing her to talk. Don't they have drugs that make you talk too?
They
I heard of that.
During MK Ultra, they were trying to make that. Remember, that was the whole thing they were trying to do, is create a truth serum. One of the whole things they were trying to do.
But in a situation like this, man, how many people could be saved?
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me, she doesn't have any more human rights because you don't care about human life.
No, not at all.
So, like, why do you deserve human rights?
Yeah, she's so evil. The child catcher comparison hit me hard. Ugh. Horrible. Maria Farmer's younger sister, Annie Farmer, was a sophomore in high school. And Maria told Epstein about how she was looking at colleges. Epstein told Maria, "I'd like to meet your little sister. Maybe I can help her get into a good school." Maria was excited for her. She just started working for them, and they were helping her so much, so this could change her sister's life. Remember, Maria was reassured that they were modeling recruiters for Wexner's brands. The red flags weren't apparent to her yet. So Annie, her little sister, flies from Arizona to New York City to meet Epstein and spend the weekend with him, Ghislaine, and her sister.
In their mansion?
Yeah.
Okay.
He takes the girls shopping, fancy restaurants, and they go to the movies. While in the movie theater, Epstein rubs Annie's hand. She gets nervous, but he stops, and then she decides to just drop it and not say anything to her sister about it. Before heading back to Arizona, Epstein tells Annie he is organizing an educational trip for students to Thailand.
Oh, no.
And to talk to her parents about going. The trip sounded structured and legitimate. She believed she would be traveling with a group of students, something academic, something safe. After she agreed, he flew her from Arizona to New Mexico, to a new property he had just recently purchased called Zorro Ranch, a massive property stretching across 10,000 acres of desert.
Sounds like a national park.
When she arrived, she expected to meet a group of other students who would go on the trip. But Annie was all alone with Epstein and Maxwell. The ranch wasn't just remote. It was disorienting. Vast land, a huge compound, hundreds of miles from anything familiar. Annie would later describe feeling physically trapped by the geography and psychologically overwhelmed by the power dynamic between herself and the two adults there controlling every aspect of the environment. According to her testimony, during that visit, she was raped multiple times by both Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Things were done to her that left her terrified enough to lock herself in the bathroom for hours. After the weekend, Jeffrey flew her back to her home in Arizona. The educational trip was obviously all a lie.
See, what I don't understand is why does he feel like he could send her home after this and everything's okay?
Because he threatens all of them and they're scared
but, all right,
to
so
say anything.
In my mind, eventually he keeps doing this. Someone's going to say something. You can't do it forever.
They do. People do say stuff later, but you'll see what happens to them.
No, all right. Unfortunately.
But Annie didn't say anything to anyone. She was terrified. A few months later, Maria, her older sister, who had worked for them, was on a trip to Ohio with Jeffrey and Ghislaine, and she too was assaulted by Epstein. She called her sister Annie to see if he had done anything to her. And this is when Annie finally told her sister. Through tears, she described being alone, trapped on Zorro Ranch, and everything they did to her there. Maria was devastated and angry. This is her little sister. She felt protective over her. She felt like she put her in a compromising situation. So she immediately called NYPD to report it. Unfortunately, the NYPD told her one incident happened in Ohio and one in New Mexico. Therefore, they had no jurisdiction.
Oh, shit.
So then Maria called the FBI. They took a statement, and she never heard from the FBI again.
Right there. Started right there. Whoever was involved in that, fire from that and up and down, and whoever's connected.
Yeah. Looking back, this period feels like one of those moments where history almost changes course, where the narrative could have stopped early. But instead, it becomes another layer in a pattern that keeps repeating. Young women stepping forward, systems hesitating, and a network that keeps growing quietly in the background. What makes this part of the story especially hard to sit with is that the machinery around Epstein wasn't built by one person, and it wasn't built by men alone. Historically, we like to imagine that women exist outside of this kind of cruelty, that they are naturally protectors, naturally safer, especially if you're a young girl. You automatically are going to be drawn to a woman in a situation because you think that they're going to protect you. But history, real history, tells us something more complicated. Women can be just as capable of harm when power, money, survival, or manipulation enter the equation. Look back at slave owners' wives. Look at the women who ran boarding schools that we threw Native Americans into. Watch the show Handmaid's Tale. As a woman, it's hard to fathom. But women love power too. And inside Epstein's world, several women became central to keeping the entire operation moving. Ghislaine may have been the face people recognized first, but she was not the only one holding the system together. Court testimony and investigative records describe what looked less like chaos and more like a hierarchy, a structure where roles are assigned, schedules were maintained, and young girls were moved through the machine with efficiency. At the center of that inner circle was a woman named Leslie Groff, one of Epstein's longtime executive assistants. Groff worked closely with him for years, handling administrative duties that, according to survivors, went way beyond ordinary office work. In FBI depositions and lawsuits, multiple women alleged that Leslie Groff coordinated travel, processed payments, and facilitated appointments with young girls under the guise of scheduling massages. She was named in the 2008 non-prosecution agreement that shielded Epstein and all of his co-conspirators, the one I told you about in part 1.
Yep.
She was named in that.
Fry that bitch.
But just like the others in the inner circle, she has never been criminally prosecuted. Through her attorneys, Leslie Groff has denied knowingly participating in any illegal activity and has stated that she is unaware of crimes being committed. But survivors have described her not as a peripheral assistant, but as someone embedded in the daily mechanics of the operation.
I wonder if she's rich too.
I'm sure she is. Another example of how Epstein's world relied not just on one predator, but on layers of people who kept the machine running. Another name? Sarah Kellen. She's another woman running his criminal network, often described by witnesses as the logistical backbone of the daily operations. Survivors testified to the FBI that Kellen handled calendars, arranged all the travel, and scheduled so-called massages that defined the rhythm of Epstein's daily life. A federal judge would later say that she is a knowing participant in the conspiracy. Yet she has never faced any criminal charges and has publicly framed herself as someone who was also victimized. That's where the moral discomfort really starts to creep in, because this story isn't always clean.
Yeah.
It forces you to confront the reality that people can exist in more than one role at once, okay? People can be harmed, manipulated, and yet still participate in harm. Kind of like when people who were abused end up abusing. Another name that appears again and again in flight logs and survivor accounts is Nadia Marcinkova. Her story really blurs those same boundaries even further. She was brought into Epstein's world as a teenager at 15 years old from overseas. She was described by some survivors as someone who began as a victim, but then later became part of the traveling inner circle that helped run everything. Flying constantly between properties, appearing on manifests, and according to testimony, sometimes pressuring other girls to comply. Epstein actually purchased Marcinkova from her family when she was 15.
Mm-hmm.
He bought her from her parents.
What?
Exactly. It's the kind of thing that's deeply unsettling to talk about because it forces you to ask questions that don't have easy answers. What happens to a person when survival inside a powerful system starts to look like complicity? At what point does this become participation?
Yeah.
And how many of these women were navigating a world where refusal felt impossible? That was part of the entire framework, though. He would abuse girls until he and his associates didn't want them anymore, or they got too old for him and his friends. So he would then use them to recruit.
What the fuck?
He would use threats or more abuse to get them to find other girls, younger girls for him. And he would also pay them.
How do you manipulate like that?
These girls would get paid per head. So what he would do is...
Oh my God. So are these girls coming out as well? Like saying like...
yeah, there's a couple of them. Mm-hmm.
That's crazy that because they also recruited
girls
per head.
So how it worked was there's a few of them that have talked about it. You know, they'd met Epstein when they were 14. He trafficked them and abused them up until they were 17. Now he doesn't want them anymore. So, but at 17, he kind of says like, look, we don't need to do this anymore. But if you don't want to get hurt or you don't want me to keep doing it, go get me another girl and I'll give you $300.
Wow.
And so that's
I don't
one of the ways he did.
Because I was going to say, I don't see how that always works for him.
No, it didn't always work. It's one of the ways that he got more recruiters.
Okay.
Was women who were previously victims. And then there's the international arm of the network. People like Jean-Luc Brunel, who was a French modeling agent, whose name comes up repeatedly in investigations tied to Epstein's operations. Multiple women accused Brunel of recruiting and transporting young girls through modeling agencies. He completely denied before his death in a Paris prison in 2022. He was awaiting trial at the time. His connection shows that it's bigger than individual relationships. It's more like a pipeline between New York, Palm Beach, and Europe. And it's blending fashion, travel, and power. It's like a global supply chain.
Yeah, because these girls originally probably thought it was glamorous, like flying to all these cool places because you're pretty.
And a lot of their targets are young girls from dysfunctional homes who grew up poor. They specifically sought that out. If you come from a family that's poor, if you come from a dysfunctional environment, if you come from Eastern Europe and your family is super poor out there. You want to come to America and have this opportunity to be a model. I mean, that was their whole game plan. Together, these people formed what investigators would eventually describe not as a random collection of bad actors, but as a structured system, layered, organized, and disturbingly efficient. He turned trauma into infrastructure. That's a reality that sits heavy, especially when you realize how many women inside the world may have started as teenagers themselves, were pulled in, broken down, and then positioned in ways to help keep the cycle moving. By this point in the story, what you're looking at isn't just a man committing crimes. It's a network, a business model built on power, silence, and people who learned to survive inside something that was already rotten at the core. By the late 90s, moving into the early 2000s, Epstein's world isn't just Manhattan, New Mexico, and Palm Beach anymore. It's global. Planes constantly moving, properties scattered across continents. Flight logs show near constant travel from New York to Florida, New Mexico to Paris, Paris to the Virgin Islands, and back again.
So the Virgin Islands was what they called Epstein Island.
That he owned that island, yeah, Little St. James.
Yeah, we watched a little YouTube thing yesterday of a dude sneaking on there for a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know his name, I forgot.
Pilots later testified that those records, the flight logs, had to be precise because their licenses depended on it. They have to register it with the overseeing body. I can't remember the name, the FEC or FCC or F something, whatever the overseeing body for pilots are.
The airplane homies.
The airplane homies. They had to keep meticulous records for their license to stay legit. So every departure, every passenger, every stop was documented. And years later, those logs would become one of the clearest maps of who would move through Epstein's world and how often.
I can't believe they didn't think of that, being it was such a big deal with the most powerful people.
Yeah.
Because the most powerful people could probably erase anything.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say most powerful people, they're just weak little pieces of shit with enormous amounts of money.
Mm-hmm.
And that the money is what makes them powerful, not who they are as a human.
This wasn't just a circle of fringe characters. Names tied to Epstein during this era in the 90s and 2000s include politicians, billionaires, academics, royalty, and celebrities.
Yup, they arrested the motherfucking Prince Little Dick over in the UK.
Yeah. Some of those people say they barely knew him. Some say they were misled. Some insist they had no idea what was happening behind closed doors. And look, if someone shows up to one dinner, one fundraiser, a random party, sure, that's believable.
It can happen, because I thought of that too. I was like, not everyone that... Because, someone showed up one time and was like, what the fuck? I guarantee they had, because so many people.
Of course. And I'm not saying that just you show up for one party and you're part of a pedophile ring.
No, but if you get the gold reward card like Costco and you have your membership and you have your ID with the picture on it, or if you do the platinum one, which I'm slacking. I got to do the bigger one.
Yeah, if you are regularly there, regularly photographed if you're in his world all the time, then you can't, we don't believe you, bro.
Well, listen, if you keep going to the pizza shop, we know you like pizza.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's New York way of describing it.
But when people are flying with him repeatedly, photographed over years, moving in and out of his homes, it becomes harder to believe that they didn't see something or that they weren't involved in something sinister. Because by this point, Epstein wasn't hiding the fact that he had access to very young girls. He was normalizing it inside elite spaces. He told people he liked prostitutes. He downplayed his legal battle in the early 2000s and the 2008 conviction as a misunderstanding, saying one of the girls he purchased for sex had lied about her age. And a lot of powerful people who were on the periphery seemed willing to accept it as a reasonable explanation. And it was a very convenient excuse for the insiders to use. The men and women who were trading children, selling and buying children. Because outsiders believed that lie. They believed that he bought a prostitute. She says she was 18 or 19 or 20, but she was really 16 or 17, and that's why he's a sex offender. Because outsiders believing that lie meant the insiders kept being able to give in to their depravity, kept being able to push boundaries and descend deeper into hell. As the 90s turned into 2000s, Epstein leaned hard into a very specific image. Not a criminal, but a philanthropist, a connector, a guy who funded science, hosted intellectuals at his home, and claimed he wanted to gather the world's brightest minds to solve global problems. And it worked. He funded research projects, hosted dinners with academics, positioned himself as someone obsessed with innovation and global change. On the surface, it looked impressive, visionary even. But survivors would later describe a completely different reality happening at the exact same time inside the exact same homes.
Yeah, you could be into more than one thing. He could like that innovation and he could like molesting the kids.
Yeah.
They can coexist.
And that contrast, that public image versus the private behavior, is what allowed his network to grow. One of the most significant relationships during this period was between Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and former President Bill Clinton. Records show Epstein visited the White House multiple times during the 1990s, at least 17 documented visits between 1993 and 1995.
This is crazy because today, the day we're recording this, is the day Bill Clinton was interviewed by, I guess, Congress.
The House Oversight Committee, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know what happened, but he's obviously going to say he didn't do anything.
Yeah, he denied. That's what he did.
Yeah. I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
That was a really good impression.
That was my first time ever trying. Ever in my entire life.
That was your first time ever trying?
What do you think? I walk around the house trying to be Bill Clinton?
No, I just expected that maybe you had tried the accent, his impression before.
Every impression you get on this show.
It's your first time?
First, I do not, because how corny is that?
To practice impressions, I think that's cool.
Well, if you're like an impressionist and you can master it and stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe I could do like a character on Kill Tony.
That was really impressive.
I could be Bill Clinton in a wheelchair.
Oh, God. So Epstein and Maxwell attended donor events and circulated in the same political and philanthropic spaces. Epstein positioned himself as a financier with ideas about currency, policy, and global development. And those are the kind of, like, when you're saying those types of things, that's going to open doors in Washington for you. He gave money to the first Clinton campaign. I think he gave $1,000 or something. And that was his in. And then he started talking about all these ideas. And then he got more involved in Washington.
Wait, so he got in with $1,000?
That was his first campaign contribution, was $1,000.
Wait, so you could start a mastermind villain network with $1,000?
No, this is just him and Clinton's relationship.
Oh.
That's what I'm saying. After Clinton left office in 2001, the connection didn't just disappear. Flight logs later confirmed that Clinton traveled on Epstein's private jet at least 3 times between 2002 and 2003, including high-profile trips connected to philanthropic work. So there was one that was like really widely publicized, and it was a trip to Africa that Bill Clinton, Chris Tucker, Kevin Spacey, and Jeffrey Epstein took.
And
random group there.
Not real. Cat Williams told everyone on Shannon Sharp that Chris Tucker was all up on Epstein's Island.
Oh, okay. So then that makes sense. I know Kevin Spacey is a child molester and a disgusting human. I didn't know that Chris Tucker was.
I thought I don't know. I thought Kevin Spacey was like a jerk off dude and be like, hey, look at this.
No, I think he sexually assaulted a boy,
Oh,
a young
shit.
teenage boy. So that makes sense that these are all hanging out together.
I think Cat Williams knows everything in the Illuminati. Somehow that interview, everything he said came true, and everyone that watched was like, he's fucking nuts.
Well, it makes sense then that Kevin Spacey, Chris Tucker, Bill Clinton, Jeffrey Epstein were on this trip. It was a highly publicized trip to Africa, and it was supposed to be humanitarian outreach that was tied to the Clinton Foundation. Clinton has repeatedly stated that he knew nothing about Epstein's criminal activity, has denied ever visiting Epstein's Island. However, one survivor, a woman named Sarah Ransom, did allege in 2016 in a deposition that she saw a video that Epstein had, and the video involved Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew, and Richard Branson. According to her...
Who's Richard Branson? Is that the
Virgin...
That's what I was about to ask.
Yeah.
Is it Virgin? Because he always seemed like a good dude, but nope.
No. According to her, Epstein was filming while they were engaging in sex acts with a child.
They were doing all together?
Yeah, with a child.
These dudes were into some crazy shit, man.
But the video has never been seen or substantiated. Then in 2019, she recanted this, saying that she made it up to get more attention on the Epstein case. But then in 2024, she recanted that statement, saying that she only recanted in 2019 because she was approached by associates of Epstein and Maxwell who threatened her life. She states the tape does exist, and she's not afraid anymore now that Epstein is dead and Ghislaine is in prison. And she has continued to talk about this tape that she saw.
Which I'm not even sure if he is dead and that is her in prison.
Yeah, I guess we'll talk about that in the next part.
I'm down with every single one.
Yeah.
I used to not believe nothing.
Another document in the newly released batch of Epstein files, if you want to write this down, if you're interested, file number EFT00147661 is an email. It's a correspondence from 2019 after the FBI interviewed a victim of Epstein. According to the FBI, the victim claimed in the interview that he was brought to Epstein's yacht by his uncle, who had been molesting him for years. At this time, he says he was between the ages of 6 and 8 years old.
That's no fucking coincidence. This boils my blood pressure. I can't even finish sentences.
He claims that on the yacht, he was raped by Epstein, Clinton, and former President George Bush Sr.
What the fuck?
He also said he was under the influence of some type of drug at the time and claims on the yacht he saw babies being dismembered.
This sounds...
In the FBI report, the victim does admit to using drugs as an adult, frequently taking mushrooms and almost daily marijuana use. From the way the document is written, it seems as if the FBI didn't find him as a very credible source at the time. He was brought to the FBI field office by a reporter named Michael Moore, who is not the same guy who made the movies. He's a different reporter.
You're in my brain.
And this Michael Moore is known as a conspiracy theorist. But I have the document, but I'm not going to read it. I gave you a summary of what's in it. It is incredibly disturbing. If you want to look it up, you can, but it's really bad. I gave you some parts, but it's horrible.
Man, if that's true, that the world ain't what we think it is. And
I'm going to say allegedly, because, as I said, the FBI says in the email exchange that they allude to the fact that they don't know if this is a credible source due to the years of drug use as an adult.
I'll tell you, weed don't make you see anything. Maybe the mushrooms.
Yeah. And the fact that he was brought there by Michael Moore. So so far, those two victim statements that I mentioned, the one about the videotape and this one from the male victim, are the ones that mentioned former President Clinton. And those are the only two things that I've seen or have heard about since the recent Epstein file dump.
That sounds insane. Like 3 presidents or something. Like, what? I hope it's not true. I'll just say that. Like, it's just, I can't even make that up. To make that up, I don't know. I got none. That's crazy.
President Clinton has denied all wrongdoing, and these statements have not been substantiated. But there are many, many photos of the pair together, of Epstein and Clinton. There is a photo from the Epstein file dump with Bill Clinton in a hot tub with a girl, and she looks young and her face is redacted.
Yeah, but I wonder if her name was fucking redacted.
It was.
Oh, because they left the other girls' names on it.
Yeah. Every time Epstein stood next to a former president, every time he appeared on a humanitarian trip, every time a photo surfaced of him inside spaces that symbolize legitimacy and power, it reinforced the illusion that he was safe, that he was vetted, that he was untouchable.
You don't think the president's friend is a raper?
Exactly. And whether intentional or not, those optics became his shield, not just socially, but psychologically. If a former president is traveling with him, if he's walking through the White House, if he's photographed with global leaders, then surely he can't be what some of these girls were saying he was.
Yeah, you'd think they're doing crazy extensive background checks in order to be in the presence of these people who are the current people that run the world.
Yeah.
Or maybe not. It seems like there's people higher than the presidents at this point.
Yeah. But that's how the network expanded. Not through secrecy alone, but through proximity to power. So it made people doubt their own instincts. At the same time, Epstein was building relationships with presidents, billionaires, and academics. Another name kept showing up beside his: Donald J. Trump. Throughout the 1990s and early 2000s, the two men moved through the same glittering world of Palm Beach and Manhattan excess.
Hello, darling groups.
Photographs show them side by side at Mar-a-Lago. Parties, fashion events, Victoria's Secret gatherings, and private dinners. Epstein was even a guest at Trump's wedding to Marla Maples in 1993.
That can't be a real name, Marla Maples. That's a movie
That was
name.
her name, yeah.
No, she had to pick it.
They weren't just acquaintances passing through the same rooms. They were part of the same social system. They were friends. Tina Davis, a former model, told the New York Times in December that she attended a party at Mar-a-Lago in 1994 when she was 14 years old, along with her mother, Sandra Coleman. Sandra Coleman, who recalled that her daughter was told to dress sexy, said that she met Trump's wife, Marla Maples, in the bathroom at one point.
At the party?
At the party.
Well, this mom is a piece of shit because she's taking her daughter somewhere where she's being told to dress sexy.
I
at
agree.
14.
I agree. I think it's weird.
It ain't weird. It's disgusting.
It's disgusting, yes. So she sees Maples in the bathroom. And according to Coleman, Maples took her hand, looked right into her eyes, and told her, quote, "Whatever you do not let her around any of these men, and especially my husband. Protect her."
Whoa.
End quote. Maples denied saying this later, telling the New York Times, "I would always protect young women in any way that I could, but I'm sure I didn't specifically say this about my daughter's father."
Mm-hmm.
So that's for you to decide.
Yeah, that's doesn't sound good.
In
But, you know. There are a lot of enemies because of political parties now, which is really stupid.
True. In 1999, Trump entered the modeling world.
Not for his looks, folks.
When he launched Trump Model Management. He worked closely with a modeling agency called MC2. This agency was owned by a man I mentioned earlier, Jean-Luc Brunel, who I will talk about in depth later as well. Jean-Luc Brunel is Epstein's longtime associate. Multiple women later accused Brunel of recruiting young girls, most underage, from overseas with promises of modeling careers and then exploiting them. This agency is now known to be a large supplier of girls for the pedophile ring Epstein and Maxwell ran. Brunel denied the allegations before his death in his Paris jail cell in 2022. French authorities had been investigating him for trafficking and assaults. So Trump's model management company, right, and Jean-Luc Brunel's agency often shared the same roster of models.
Okay.
Trump also owned Miss USA pageants from 1996 to 2015.
Oh, yeah, I saw that he bragged about on Howard Stern being able to walk through while they're getting naked and changing.
He did. He was on Howard Stern saying that.
Fucking creepy as fuck.
Another man in the modeling world who worked closely with Brunel, Trump, and Epstein was a man named Paolo Zampoli. He has the agency ID Models, okay? He's the CEO of ID Models. And he would bring girls over from Eastern Europe on questionable visas. This is how Melania Trump got to America.
Oh, shit.
Through Paolo Zampoli's modeling agency.
Wow.
He introduced Trump to Melania in 1998.
I wonder if she saw him and was like, oh, man, he's handsome. Or was like, I could get some paper and some money. When I say some paper, it's like get my papers to like be a citizen and some money.
Yeah, probably that.
Yeah, but like I could do worse back home. So he always had that hair.
He did. He always had terrible hair.
Yeah, and people always questioned, was it a wig? It ain't. At this point, it's his hair.
It's a comb over.
It's like a comb over, forward, and back. That shit is a muskrat on his head.
In March 2025, Zampoli was appointed, last year, March 2025, he was appointed by Trump to be the special envoy for global partnerships, a high-level U.S. government position.
This is wild.
And he is also on the board of the Kennedy Center. Zampoli is now has a high government position. He's on the board of trustees with Pam Bondi, and he also was a guy who was the CEO of ID Models back then.
Who introduced him to his wife. And brought a ton of young girls from Eastern Europe to America. Yeah.
Under modeling promises.
Yeah, because she's way too pretty for him.
Yeah.
She aged well. She looks good.
She does look good. She's really pretty. This is an interesting story. So Zampoli's girlfriend, Amanda Nagari, is a Brazilian model that he recruited when she was just a teenager. And he got her from Jean-Luc Brunel. And just a few months ago, she was sent to an ICE detention center and deported back to Brazil without her young son.
Oh, shit. So where's the boy?
The boy is here with his father, Zampoli.
Oh.
But his longtime girlfriend, who he recruited as a teenager into modeling and then has been with her for years, was sent to an ICE detention center and deported back to Brazil. She has spoken to reporters and has said that she knows she was deported because of information that she has. She claimed that Zampoli was physically abusive to her for years, and that since being a teenager, she was part of Epstein's sex trafficking ring and knows a lot of the inner workings and key players. So that's crazy. She got deported.
Yeah.
From an anonymous tip. An anonymous tip called Crime Stoppers and happened to go after a high government official's Brazilian wife who's been here for years and deported her.
Yep, it does seem like too much to be a coincidence.
Mm-hmm. So essentially, these men, Epstein, Brunel, Trump, Zampoli, and Wexner, ran the New York and Florida modeling scene. In a 2002 interview with the New York Magazine, Trump publicly described Epstein as a, quote, terrific guy, and said that Epstein liked, quote, beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side.
You know, that statement always gets me because even if you think he didn't do it, like any of the stuff with the women, at the bare minimum, he knew what was going on by saying that.
Yeah. Well, at the time, it read like typical billionaire bravado. It also, at the time, before we knew any of this, people were just like, oh, it's just Trump again running his mouth saying weird shit. Because he was always saying
he just rambles.
Weird shit.
Yeah, and he just rambles about different subjects. Mm-hmm. But it's very ironic, me saying that.
That's true. Yeah.
I don't ramble like this outside of the podcast.
That's true. You don't. Years later, that quote would feel different. It feels heavier. It feels darker now. And it's hard to ignore. During Ghislaine Maxwell's trial, there were many flight logs presented as evidence, and these flight logs obviously named a lot of people. As I told you before, the flight logs were meticulously kept, which make them very solid evidence. On the logs, we see that Trump flew on Epstein's private jet 7 times between 1993 and 1997. And then there are the allegations, some of the most controversial and emotionally charged part of this entire timeline. In 2016, a woman using the pseudonym Katie Johnson filed a civil lawsuit accusing both Epstein and Trump of sexually assaulting her in the 1990s when she was a minor between the ages of 13 and 15. She was interviewed by the FBI on 4 separate occasions. The case was withdrawn before trial, and Katie Johnson later said that it was because of death threats that she had received. Trump has denied all allegations. No court ever ruled on the claims, and they remain unproven. But the lawsuit became part of a larger cloud surrounding the Epstein world. This is the document that NPR and other news outlets and members of Congress are right now complaining about all over, saying they're missing.
This just came out days ago.
Well, it came out that they're missing days ago. Yeah. This is the document, this lawsuit from 2016. But I have screenshots of the civil suit that she filed in April of 2016. It's disgusting and incredibly graphic. She claims in the suit that she was violently raped by both men, forced to perform oral sex, and then punched in the face by Donald Trump.
Wait a minute. Did she win this lawsuit?
No, I told you the lawsuit was dropped because she got death threats.
Oh, that's why, yeah.
As part of her civil suit against them, there was a material witness. Okay, so it's her in this suit and a witness who is corroborating all of it. The witness name in the document is Tiffany Doe, who was apparently a trusted employee of Epstein and swore under oath that everything Katie Johnson said in the document was true.
Wow.
Tiffany Doe states she was a party planner for Epstein for over 10 years.
So they weren't friends. She was an employee of Epstein.
Yes.
Wow.
For over 10 years, where she would plan parties for him and his friends. And these parties would have multiple preteen and teenage girls that were brought to his homes, and the men used them as sex slaves. In the document, Tiffany Doe says she can no longer stay silent about the horrors that she witnessed and that she knows she was a part of. Other unnamed victims have described encounters with high-profile figures in Epstein's circle, though not all the allegations have been substantiated, and many remain disputed or unverified. That's one of the most unsettling things about this case. The line between documented fact sworn testimony, rumor, and strategic narrative is constantly shifting. So I have the screenshots of this document. I'll gladly send them to you if you guys want.
I'm not going to read those.
It's really horrific and hard to read. I think the thing for me that really sticks out is the fact that there is this witness that also testified under oath.
That gives it more credibility and a higher chance of being true. And it's crazy when we say Trump, because it's like when we say Trump, when we're saying the president.
Yes, the president of the United States of America.
You know, possibly is the most powerful man on the earth, but the way things are working behind the scenes, it seems like other people are really in charge.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's really crazy. After Epstein's 2019 arrest, Trump's tone shifted dramatically. He said their friendship had ended long before, claiming they'd had a falling out around 2004. The reasons for the split vary depending on who's telling the story. Some accounts say it was a bitter real estate dispute over a Palm Beach estate.
Yeah, I've heard that.
A property that both men wanted, which Trump ultimately purchased out from under Epstein at an auction. Other reporting suggests tensions over staff and social boundaries at Mar-a-Lago, including claims that Epstein had behaved inappropriately towards young women connected to the club, and Trump allies point to as proof that he distanced himself.
That's what I heard too. Like he was trying to pick up one of his girls that worked at the place. So that's also something I heard.
Yes.
And I hope it's true.
But like so much of this story, there isn't just one version. In recordings Epstein made with journalist Michael Wolff in 2017, years after their friendship had supposedly ended, Epstein painted himself as deeply familiar with Trump's personal life. On those tapes, he alternated between praise and criticism. He called Trump charming while also describing him as reckless and morally untethered. Epstein claimed they spent years partying together, chasing women in Atlantic City and New York. Trump's camp dismissed those recordings outright, calling them false, smears, and politically motivated attacks released at a strategic time, because it was right, in 2017, this is right after he became president.
Listen, there's two sides to this story, and I don't believe either one. The truth is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. I mean, there's always two sides to a
This
story.
is what that's how I think. Like, where there's smoke, there's fire, like if you see a baseball player in a baseball uniform, what are you going to see more of? More baseball players.
Yeah.
Baseball players hang out with baseball players. If you see prostitutes on the corner, what are you going to see next to them? More prostitutes on the corner. That's probably not the best analogy. I don't know. The analogy didn't come out that well, but
you are who you hang out with.
Yeah, like birds of a feather flock together.
Yep.
Except my friends are kind of dumb. Shout out to you guys.
But what mattered to Epstein wasn't just friendship, it was optics. Photos with Trump, flights with politicians, dinners with royalty. Every powerful name attached to him became social armor. The message was clear. If these people trust me, you should too. Even the collapse of the Trump-Epstein relationship didn't erase that history. For years, they existed very closely in the same circles. They were not just acquaintances. These were two men who understood how power, money, and a spectacle could blur perception.
Reminds me of the Locke song, Money, Power, Respect.
One would go on to the Oval Office. The other would end up at the center of the most disturbing criminal cases in modern history. But as you read emails sent by Epstein in the new Epstein Files dump, it shows that Epstein was kind of obsessed with Trump in his first term of his presidency. He was gossiping about him all the time, nonstop. He sent so many emails. They're almost like, it's like high school girl shit. Like, did you see what he did today? Did you see there's so many emails of him gossiping about him, talking so much shit constantly.
It's true, but this isn't the peak male You know, this
yeah,
is a low testosterone bitch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, of course, he's gossiping. Another dude might laugh at him like, yo, you see this clown? But he's like gossiping like a little bitch.
Yeah, he was. And he was just talking shit about him constantly. So it was clear by these emails at that time that their relationship had gone very sour. And as we move deeper into the story, the question stops being who knew what and starts becoming harder to sit with. How many people saw the truth and chose to look away? I briefly mentioned Jean-Luc Brunel earlier. And, you know, as Epstein's network expanded overseas, this French modeling agent became a controversial figure in this circle. Brunel helped found modeling agencies in France, and multiple women later accused him of sexual assault and recruiting young girls through his modeling channels. And he denied all the allegations.
I always felt like that probably happens a lot in the modeling industry because you're supposed to be comfortable being butt naked all the time and like people handling you.
Images released from Epstein's Paris apartment years later revealed rooms decorated with erotic images and massage equipment, reinforcing suspicions to the investigators that these European properties may have functioned as hubs within the broader network. Brunel was arrested in 2020 in France, and he was found dead in his prison cell, sounds very familiar, in 2022 while awaiting trial. His case was closed after his death, though French authorities have continued reviewing materials that tied him to Epstein's operations. By the early 2000s, Jeffrey Epstein didn't just own properties. He curated environments. Every location served a function. Every address was chosen, not just for luxury, but for control. The Manhattan townhouse on East 71st Street rose like a monument to wealth. It had high ceilings, marble everywhere.
Wasn't that Wexner's?
That was, yeah. Endless rooms. Visitors described the walls covered in strange, unsettling artwork. Lots of pictures and portraits and paintings of prepubescent little girls and young women posed in ways that felt less like art and more like perversion. There were sculptures that blurred childhood and sexuality. Photographs were placed where you couldn't avoid seeing them. It wasn't subtle. It was confrontational, and it was weird as fuck.
So basically, had paintings of naked children all over the place.
All over the place. It's crazy.
No one... Well, this is how you know you have no real friends.
Yeah.
Because the first one someone would have gotten, like, what the fuck is that, you weirdo?
Yeah.
Immediately.
Some visitors later reported medical-style equipment inside the home, exam tables, devices that didn't belong in a billionaire's sitting room, clinical objects, like weird shit that they noticed in this lavish Manhattan townhouse. Then you have Palm Beach, the pink mansion on El Brillo Way. Bright, almost cartoonish from the outside. Inside, according to testimony, it operated with a rhythm. Girls were arriving in the afternoon. There was cash exchange, staff moving quietly through the hallways, surveillance cameras everywhere. Upstairs rooms where the doors were closed and stayed closed. Survivors described the same routine again and again, the same staircase, the same massage tables, the same instructions, the same understanding of what was happening. It wasn't random. It was all scheduled. It was surrounded by some of the wealthiest people in the country. It was like an exclusivity existed there. And then you have Zorro Ranch. New Mexico doesn't glitter in the same way that Manhattan does. It swallows sound.
It's the hills have eyes type shit where you're trapped in the middle of nowhere.
Yes. Zorro Ranch sat on thousands of acres of desert.
10,000 acres of desert.
It was isolated, expansive, empty. To reach it meant leaving everything familiar behind. There are accounts from survivors that describe the ranch as psychologically suffocating. The remoteness wasn't accidental, it was strategic. No neighboring houses, no easy transportation, long dirt roads, open sky. It made you feel small.
Wow.
It was a multi-structure compound. Large main houses, guest houses, staff quarters, surveillance. According to court filings and victim testimony, young women were brought there under promises of the opportunity of educational trips, modeling prospects, introductions to powerful people. But instead, they found isolation. The desert doesn't echo the way the city does. Like you're screaming and nobody can hear you.
You're screaming into nothing. Your voice to yourself probably sounds like it's, so low.
Yeah.
Even though you're screaming, there's nothing. You can't run. You'll die out there.
You can't run. Yeah, you're too far away. Zorro Ranch feels different in this story. I have a very horrible feeling about Zorro Ranch.
There's going to be horror movies about this fucking Zorro, at least inspired by it.
Yeah.
This shit is crazy.
It's terrifying to me. And I actually had a really bad dream last night, and part of my dream was about Zorro Ranch because I was writing all day yesterday, and I actually had a bad dream.
Wow.
And after I read this next document from the recent Epstein files, it's going to feel like a horror movie. This document is a victim describing being held in the horse stalls at the ranch and on Epstein Island. This document is EFTA 0037903. And I'm going to read it now. So it's heavily redacted. It starts in the middle of a sentence, okay? I was taken to an underground location. I was blindfolded, so I would not know exactly where I was at. It was dark. And when we went through doors, we went downstairs, and there was an elevator in the location. I was kept in a stall. It looked like a horse stall that had short walls on the sides so you could see inside. It wasn't really to keep me and the other girls inside. It was to make it where we could be viewed. Epstein would walk past each girl, including myself, with a lot of men following him, and they would judge us. He told me I was fat and ugly, so that's what he called me. Redacted. And he said I had to pretend it was him to see if I performed well. He said if I performed well, I could be his girlfriend. Then I would be allowed to be upstairs, he called it. He said the girls upstairs were pretty and they were his girlfriends. He then raped me and said I was evil because I liked it. I couldn't make my body stop feeling, so he said I had to go to the holding place and pray hard enough to be able to be upstairs with the other girls. There were a lot of pictures of girls naked all over the walls. I had to pray hard to be like them, he said. The girls that he said performed well enough went with the line of all the men and then left. In the Virgin Islands, redacted, they stopped there. I was 17 years old, redacted, was blindfolded and taken to an underground location. It had steps that went down. I was raped by Jeffrey Epstein. There were other men that raped me too. I don't remember who they were. I was kept in a stall so that men could look at me. He said I was an animal and that he was perfect. If I had sex with him, I wouldn't be such an animal anymore. He said I wanted to be raped because I wanted to be more like him. And that's the end of that document.
Death is too easy for him. If he's dead, it's too easy.
Yeah,
he deserves more.
I'm reading some of the stuff I found. There are people who've gone through thousands of documents and have found so much worse shit. And I just can't do it. Like, this is horrendous enough. Like, I can't keep looking for
talking
more.
About killing babies and eating babies. There's all kind of crazy shit, and you hope that it's not true.
Yeah.
but there's no way there's millions of pages and everything is not true.
Yeah. So Manhattan was about legitimacy. Palm Beach was luxury. The island was indulgence. But New Mexico was about removal. Removal from family. Removal from jurisdictional clarity. Removal from witnesses. And then there was Little St. James, a private island surrounded by water, the ultimate barrier, accessible only by plane or boat. Meals were served, boats anchored offshore, powerful men arriving and leaving, just like it was another vacation. Meanwhile, according to lawsuits and sworn statements, young girls were being cycled through the same controlled spaces. There is a temple-like structure on the island, and there is a trap door inside that temple that opens up and goes directly into the ocean. We will talk about that in part 3.
I saw that. That is fucking nuts. And that's the one that the YouTube guy went to try to see.
And finally, Paris. The Avenue Foch apartment, intense reds, dramatic lighting, walls covered in nude photographs. French investigators later described a red-walled massage room stocked with sex toys. The decor felt theatrical, like the space itself was meant to normalize all of this. Tie all of this together with the plane, the Boeing 727, the Gulf Streams, the constant movement. To the outside world, this looked like the lifestyle of a billionaire. To the girls moving between these places, it became something else entirely. A closed system, a trap. After his non-prosecution agreement that was drafted by Alex the Toe Acosta and signed in 2008, Epstein, as I said, got work release every day and continued his abuse. A lot of powerful men and women stayed friends with him after this. As I said earlier, he told them he had to register as a sex offender because he purchased a prostitute who lied about her age. When people say Epstein's world was just parties and perverts, it wasn't. It was geopolitical. It was business. It was power layered on top of power. If you want to understand how Epstein survived socially after 2008, you have to understand Leon Black. Probably one of the most evil people in this story. Because this wasn't a casual dinner guest. This was a billionaire at the very top of global finance. Co-founder of Apollo Global Management, a man whose portfolio reshaped industries, a man who collected art at a level most museums can't compete with. I mean, this guy is one of the top in the world.
Yeah, billions.
After Epstein pled guilty in 2008, registered as a sex offender, Leon Black kept paying him. Between 2012 and 2017, Black paid Epstein at least $150 million, with some reports later citing closer to $170 million for what was described as, quote, tax and estate planning advice. Investigations later revealed that those strategies may have saved Leon Black between $1 and $2 billion in taxes.
Oh, shit. So he really was good at saving people money.
Yeah.
He knew how to beat the tax man.
That's financial dependence. Epstein wasn't just hosting parties. He was engineering wealth preservation at a scale that insulated these people and kept them from paying billions in taxes. And it went deeper. Epstein reportedly helped manage Leon Black's estimated $2.8 billion art collection. Emails showed Epstein negotiating loans using artwork as collateral. He assisted in sales, including a $7.8 million Paul Klee painting. In early 2017, Black also made 2 loans to Epstein totaling $30.5 million. Those loans were not fully repaid before Epstein died. Federal and local prosecutors in New York reviewed allegations of sexual assault involving Leon Black, including claims tied to events at Epstein's Manhattan townhouse in the early 2000s. Multiple women have now alleged assault during so-called massages. Some of the Epstein files referenced incredibly disturbing behavior, and no criminal charges were brought against him.
The justice system is just straight up failing us, and it's all a mirage at that. Everyone needs to start fresh.
Mm-hmm. We do. We need a clean slate. We need to burn this whole shit down.
Yep.
By 2021, under mounting pressure over his financial ties to Epstein, Leon Black stepped down as CEO of Apollo Global Management. But here's the part that's hard to ignore. Epstein didn't just attach himself to billionaires socially. He embedded himself into their financial architecture. He made himself indispensable to these men, financially, strategically, and personally. If you have a guy who's going to save you $1 to $2 billion in taxes, he's indispensable to you.
Yeah. Imagine being able to save $1 billion. That means you made way more than that.
Yeah. And that kind of utility buys silence and protection. In the Epstein file dump that just happened, there were a couple of documents that show prosecutors reviewed sexual assault allegations from at least 4 women against billionaire Leon Black. The documents include emails, internal memos, and records of communications with attorneys dating back to 2019. And 2 women alleged that Black raped them at Epstein's Manhattan townhouse. And there are claims that appeared in the civil lawsuits filed after Epstein's death. One lawsuit has since been withdrawn, while another is pending. These documents from the civil suit were filed in the Southern District of New York, and they've disappeared from the Department of Justice website. But I have screenshots, and they are horrendous.
They're obviously trying to hide things.
I'm going to read them.
Oh, shit.
But trigger warning for this one. It's really bad. Okay. Ugh. All right. So this is from the Southern District of New York. Leon Black. He's categorized as a Wall Street person, 72 years old now. Founded largest private equity global fund that exists today. The victim making this claim, 7 to 8 years old. Black was sexually violent with her. Leon Black bit parts of her vagina. Violence was arousing for him, very painful for her. In the lawsuit, it states that they got a call from a victim woman who said that she heard about the lawsuit against Black and wanted to come forward with her story. The victim states that Black raped her about 20 years ago in 2001 and 2002 in Epstein's townhouse. The victim described it as felt pain, like insertion of something sharp into her. She states she was driven to Epstein's townhouse to meet Epstein and a special friend named Leon Black. While she has always known the name of Black, she didn't participate in the Epstein case previous to now. Epstein and Black used to talk about the victim and described her as being 10 years old.
Whoa.
From 2001 to the end of 2004, she was trafficked by redacted and had sex with at least 25 different men.
How is that redacted?
Was raped by 25 different men. This is redacted. Says handed victim off to Maxwell and Epstein. Victim had to sleep in their bed with them in the U.S. Virgin Islands. In late 2020 and early 2021, officials were trying to interview underage girls who had been on the island, and the victim was interviewed and participated in around 2 to 3 meetings. Victim viewed Maxwell as a mother figure, but describes things that she did were mean. And then she also talks about having trauma from the sexual abuse, including vaginal and rectal tearing. At the time, she was 10 years old, and multiple women have come out and said that Leon Black, liked to harm them at the times of these assaults. He liked to draw blood. It's really nasty.
And where is he now?
Oh, he's living life.
What?
Yeah, he's just out.
Out where?
Living in his house. Running his companies. I mean, he stepped down as the CEO of Apollo Global, but he's still just living life.
I can't.
Another victim that came forward said that Leon Black raped her, and she has Down syndrome.
Oh, shit.
And autism, and was a small child when she was raped by Leon Black. So there is another part of Leon Black's story. His company, Apollo Global, owns the company that takes all the school pictures. Have you heard about that?
I did recently. So they have a database of every single child that's ever been in public school.
However,
maybe even regular school.
I looked it up and want to make it clear that his company didn't actually acquire that until 2018. Okay. So a lot of people online are making it seem like this was happening at the same time.
But at this point, we're all like, anything could be true at this point. So even he was still had a database of all these children.
Yeah. I mean, but it didn't get acquired. That company didn't acquire the other company until 2018. So it's not like while we were in school, they're like selling our pictures or something.
Yeah.
You know, that wasn't linked until 2018. So Black has denied all allegations, and neither federal prosecutors in the Southern District of New York nor the Manhattan District Attorney's Office have brought any criminal charges against him, even though there have been at least 3 people, one of them with Down syndrome, who has come forward to say that he has raped them.
And to me, these are just the ones that have been reported.
Yeah.
There's obviously more than this.
Oh, yeah.
And things that were done on islands and deserts.
Yeah.
Everything.
So the recent U.S. Department of Justice release of all these files have brought new attention to a 15-year relationship between Epstein and former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak. 15 years, okay? From 2003 all the way up to 2019, meaning this relationship continued not just before his conviction, but long after it. Barak and Epstein were in regular communication, okay? There were meetings. There were business discussions. There were reported visits to Epstein's Manhattan townhouse all the time, travel on his private plane, even visits to the private island. Emails show that they explored business ventures together, including a 2015 investment in a startup and discussions around marketing Israeli-linked biometric surveillance technology. Epstein wasn't just a social connection. He was described as a financial fixer, someone who could move money, structure deals, and make things happen. There were also records showing Ehud Barak frequently staying at his New York City townhouse. In the townhouse, the staff that worked there reportedly referred to a wing of the townhouse as Ehud's apartment.
Wow.
This is the Israeli prime minister.
That's...
Okay.
This goes deep.
Now, Ehud Barak has apologized for the relationship. He has said he regrets meeting Epstein. He has stated he didn't know the scope of his crimes until 2019. He's denied witnessing or participating in any illegal or inappropriate behavior. But it wasn't a one-off dinner. It wasn't a random fundraiser photo, okay? It was 15 years of close contact through rumors, through lawsuits, through a 2008 conviction where he pled guilty and had to register as a sex offender. He had a freaking wing in the New York City mansion.
Insane.
The dude spent time on the island. Like, come on. Because Epstein didn't just collect famous names, he embedded himself into these systems. Surveillance tech, politics, finance, international security. That's not cocktail party stuff.
No, that's the leaders of the world.
The last man I'm going to talk about, even though there are many, many, many more.
Many men.
Yeah, many men. Is Prince.
We need 50 Cent to get on this.
We do.
Because he don't give a fuck.
We do need 50 to get on
And he
this.
has the ability to get access to information and put this out there even more.
I know.
But I don't blame him if he doesn't, because this is
deep.
Yeah, this goes far. It might kill your ass. I mean, he already got shot 9 times. So.
True. So the last man I'm going to talk about is Prince Andrew. Jeffrey Epstein's relationship with Prince Andrew, Duke of York, became one of the most high-profile connections to emerge from this scandal. The two were introduced in the late 1990s through Ghislaine Maxwell and remained in contact for years. Flight logs and photographs placed Prince Andrew at Epstein's homes in New York, Palm Beach, U.S. Virgin Islands. The prince was photographed in 2001 with Virginia Giuffre, who later alleged that she was trafficked to him at 17. In file EFTA 012499597, I have a copy of an FBI interview conducted with a victim of Prince Andrew.
Uh-oh.
And I'm going to read it. All right. When I was 6 to 8 years old, living at Redacted, I was drugged at night and driven by my father, Redacted, to pedophile ring parties. The main house I was taken to is located behind Redacted at the end of a private road. Redacted is next door. In the driveway of this house, I was hit by a dark blue car.
Oh, shit.
With a personalized license plate ending in DOY, driven by Prince Andrew. I was not taken to a hospital, but I suffered permanent injuries to my ribs, hip, and my leg on the right side. The car's hood figurine broke off in my hand on impact, and I later buried it near my home so it could still be recoverable as evidence. This person was 6 to 8 years old at this time.
You're running them over with a car, a baby.
After I was hit by the car, I woke up to Prince Andrew forcing his mouth on mine and pushing my legs apart. He raped me. In that house, I was also sexually tortured with household tools.
A baby.
And penetrated with a beer bottle. I have medical records of the resulting infection. I once ran away from the house naked and made it to the Redacted community down the road, GPS Redacted. I remember seeing and speaking to a man, so I think that there may be Redacted living in the area who could corroborate what goes on there. I was also taken to another house that I later recognized as Redacted. There, I was restrained on a table and tortured with electric shocks by Ghislaine Maxwell and surrounded by watching men. I remember seeing Prince Andrew's face. After being raped by another man there, I tried to sneak out. Maxwell caught me and beat me with the bristle end of a broom. She penetrated my vagina with the handle of the broom. She also threatened me, saying that I, quote, deserve to die, and hit me in the face with the broom, breaking my nose. I was only taken to the hospital for the broken nose after a rugby match so that the injury could be blamed on that. During this time frame, I also went on yearly vacation staying at my grandparents' house. I remember on one occasion being driven by my father over an hour away to a mansion with a gated driveway and a large rectangular swimming pool. I was molested by a man that I later recognized as Epstein when he was in the news. He also attempted to rape me, but he could not force his round and misshapen penis inside of me.
And now that's real evidence right there. Like, hey, Epstein, drop your drawers.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
He took pornographic photos of me in a skirt. Around late 2012, I had not yet fully processed all of these memories, but I reported my father to the police after seeing a text from G. Maxwell on his phone saying, quote, "I have 2 children," and being triggered by it. "I believe it's possible that my father may have been involved in the procurement for a pedophile ring even then because he made visits to several local schools and a disabled children's home. In the end, he was not arrested and the case was not investigated. As a result, he was able to destroy a lot of evidence, such as photographs. Releasing Ghislaine Maxwell on bail would lead to the same outcome." So this is probably a person who was trying to say not to release her on bail when she first, got brought in.
So she didn't even, because they're going to get her, probably.
Yeah. This is still the same witness talking about another victim. "I also remember another victim being redacted. She is a year younger than me, so she may have been as young as 5 years old at the time."
Oh my God.
So, yeah. It's honestly like I was saying, as I'm reading all of this stuff, like I feel like I'm in hell.
Yeah, I'm very uncomfortable listening to this and just want some swift justice.
Yeah.
Us, the people, are literally calling for blood.
Yeah, for sure. So if the early years were about building access, Palm Beach is where the pattern becomes impossible to ignore, at least for the people living inside that small, manicured world. Because while Epstein's network was expanding globally, something much more local was happening inside that pink mansion on El Brillo Way. Stories started circulating through middle schools and high schools, girls whispering about a wealthy older man who paid hundreds of dollars for massages. Rumors about a house where teenagers came and went at all hours. To outsiders, it sounded like gossip, the kind of exaggerated stories that always swirl around rich people. But to the girls inside it, it wasn't a rumor at all. It was routine. Victims described being ushered upstairs, doors closed behind them. The environment felt carefully controlled. The walls were decorated with nude art, and the rooms filled with luxury that made everything feel unreal, as if they had stepped into a different world and rules didn't apply. One of the most detailed accounts of how this system worked came from Virginia Giuffre, who described being approached by Maxwell while she was working at Mar-a-Lago in the spa. Virginia was 15 years old, and she was working in the spa, folding towels, working the front desk. It was a teenage job. Maxwell presented herself as a mentor figure, charming and deeply connected. She offered Giuffre a chance to train as a massage therapist for a wealthy client who traveled frequently. Maxwell told Virginia that she would send her to massage school and pay for it all. And for a 14-year-old girl searching for direction and stability, it sounded like a good opportunity. But what began as a supposed job interview quickly crossed boundaries. Giuffre has described how Epstein and Maxwell gradually normalized inappropriate behavior, asking invasive personal questions, testing limits, and using a mix of money, manipulation, and intense intimidation and threats on her family, especially her younger brother, Sky, to maintain control over her. Over time, she says she was trafficked to powerful men across multiple locations, including New York, London, and Epstein's private island.
No one filed these girls as missing or anything?
No, they're going home sometimes.
I thought they weren't letting them go because everybody would tell right away.
No, they won't tell. They're scared. They're threatening their families.
But not everyone could be scared. Someone, it's happened to so many people, someone said something. Well, we have reports.
Yeah, there's reports of people saying stuff, but people didn't believe them. I mean, there's so many, it's multifactorial. Her testimony painted Maxwell as not a passive bystander, but as someone who instructed, scheduled, and reinforced Epstein's expectations. She also openly spoke about all the other women in the criminal organization that helped run everything. Epstein survivors say It created an environment where fear and dependency worked together. Some were offered apartments, tuition help, travel. Others were shown that Epstein seemed connected to the police, politicians, and billionaires, a message that was, it's pointless to resist. As Epstein's circle widened, survivors described being sent to meet other wealthy men, sometimes introduced by vague titles like, oh, he's a donor, he's a professor, he's a billionaire. So they didn't get to know all of their names.
Yeah.
Virginia Giuffre was not just a survivor. She was a fighter. After being abused as a teenager by Epstein and multiple men, she refused to disappear. When she finally escaped, she went to Australia, married her husband, and had children, and her husband is her biggest supporter. She filed lawsuits, gave sworn testimony, and publicly named powerful men that she said she had been trafficked to, including Prince Andrew. She endured years of attacks on her credibility and intense public scrutiny. But she kept speaking. In the months before her death, she had been involved in a horrible car accident, which fueled a lot of speculation online that someone may have been after her. But authorities reported no evidence of foul play. And then, only a couple months later, in April 2025, Virginia Giuffre died by suicide.
Nope.
A devastating loss that underscored a lifelong toll that trauma can take. But not everyone believes she died by suicide.
Yeah, before I would say all that shit is ridiculous, like, oh, yeah, she did. But no, I don't believe anything anymore. Or I do believe everything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to explain it anymore. You know how I explain it? Anything is possible.
Yeah, it's true. She was writing her memoir, and it was almost finished. Later that year, her memoir was published, ensuring that her voice and her story and her fight for accountability would not be reduced to headlines or conspiracy. So her memoir is called Nobody's Girl, and she had a lady writing it with her, like a writer who helped her edit it and stuff. And after Virginia died, she published the book. Courtney Wild and attorney Brad Edwards became two of the most persistent forces fighting to expose how Jeffrey Epstein was protected for so long. Courtney Wild was one of Epstein's earliest victims in Palm Beach. She was recruited and trafficked to multiple men at age 14, and she refused to accept the 2008 non-prosecution agreement that allowed him to avoid federal charges and shielded all of the co-conspirators. She hired an attorney, Brad Edwards. And Brad Edwards is an amazing attorney. He has been fighting for years against Epstein and all of these people.
Sometimes I'm surprised they didn't off people like this. But then I guess it'd be too obvious if they offed everyone.
Yeah, I mean, he's really, really great. With Brad Edwards as her attorney, she spent years challenging that secret deal in court, arguing that federal prosecutors had violated the Crime Victims' Rights Act by failing to inform the victims before finalizing it. Their legal battles stretched over a decade, climbing through multiple federal courts and forcing the Justice Department to confront how the plea agreement was handled. Though the courts ultimately ruled that the victims could not undo the deal, Courtney Wild and Brad Edwards' fight exposed the secrecy surrounding the agreement. So it's because of them and Julie K. Brown, the reporter I talked about last time, that all of this got exposed and came out. And because they did that, it laid the groundwork that contributed to the federal case that put Epstein in prison in 2019. All the men named have denied wrongdoing, and not everyone linked socially to Epstein has been accused of criminal activity. But what survivor accounts reveal is the existence of a culture where Epstein appeared comfortable offering access to young boys and girls as a form of currency and reinforcing his status in powerful circles.
And he would reassure them that nothing's going there'll be no consequences because they are above the law, whoever's down with him.
Jeffrey Epstein was finally arrested in July of 2019 at Teterboro Airport in New Jersey on federal sex trafficking charges, more than a decade after his controversial 2008 plea deal in Florida. The new indictment accused him of operating a sex trafficking ring involving underage girls in New York and Florida between 2002 and 2005. Okay, so they're only accounting for 3 years in this indictment. This time, the case was federal, and the scope was way broader. Evidence recovered from his Manhattan townhouse included photographs of nude underage girls, large sums of cash, and other materials investigators described as disturbing. Epstein was denied bail and held at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York, where he died by suicide in August of 2019.
I think there's a good chance he's still alive.
Ghislaine Maxwell immediately went on the run when Epstein was arrested. And she was finally arrested a year later in July 2020 at a secluded property in New Hampshire that she was hiding at.
Wow.
She was charged with helping recruit and groom underage girls for Epstein between 1994 and 2004. In 2021, after a high-profile federal trial in New York, Maxwell was convicted on multiple sex trafficking conspiracy counts. And in 2022, she was sentenced to 20 years.
It's not enough.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I mean, she'll be out, before then, for 20 years. Maybe when she gets out, someone will smoke her.
Hopefully. Her conviction marked the first time someone in Epstein's inner circle was held criminally accountable at a federal level.
She's the scapegoat. She's the one that they were willing to give up.
Yeah, absolutely. Because
But she's guilty.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not saying she's not guilty, but she was the one I will give her up.
She's the fall guy, but the fall guy who very much participated and orchestrated it.
We need more.
We need more people.
We want them all. But this is how witch hunts start, too, to be fair. So he did it. Get him.
Of course, this is how witch hunts start.
We gotta
be smart.
And that's hard to be as a human.
Yeah, you gotta be smart, and you gotta vet information.
And especially, it's hard for the people in charge to be smart because they're not there for being smart. They're there for being popular.
Yeah. In part 1, we talked about storms, how they don't just appear out of nowhere. They build quietly. Pressure shifts, winds change, the sky darkens, and that's what this story was. It wasn't one monstrous moment that we often talk about in different cases on our show. It was decades of pressure building behind closed doors, money, power, ego, access, until the damage became impossible to ignore. In part 2, we descended into hell. Like Dante, walking through the circles of the Inferno, we moved from lust to greed to fraud to betrayal. And what we found wasn't flames. It was private planes. It was luxurious Manhattan townhouses. It was red-lit rooms and ranches in the middle of nowhere. An island surrounded by blue water that hid something unspeakable. It was men in tailored suits and women in couture dresses who understood exactly what they were doing. And that's the part people struggle with, because this wasn't just one evil man. It was many men and women. Women participated, women recruited, women normalized. Victims were manipulated into becoming recruiters. Billionaires kept writing checks. Politicians kept attending dinners. Associates kept flying. People who absolutely should have known better stayed close anyway. And that's why people are angry. But maybe we're not angry enough. Not angry about just the crimes, but about the protection, the plea deals, the sealed documents, the lack of cooperation. The way power shields itself and calls it sophistication. The deepest circle Dante described was treachery, betrayal of trust. And what is this case if not that? It's a betrayal of children, a betrayal of justice, a betrayal of systems that are supposed to protect the vulnerable and instead protect the powerful. But here's what they didn't count on. Survivors who refused to stay silent, women like Virginia Giuffre and Courtney Wild and Maria and Annie Farmer, who stood up against forces designed to crush them. They didn't burn the system down overnight, but they cracked it. And cracks let the light in. So if this storm taught us anything, if this descent meant anything, it's this. Monsters don't survive because they're invincible. They survive because people choose to look away. Because outrage fades. Because distraction is easy. Accountability isn't. So don't look away. Don't let this become background noise. Demand transparency. Demand consequences. Demand accountability. Remember the names of the survivors. Listen to them and believe them. Because hell isn't some mythic place beneath our feet. Hell is what we allow to exist when we stop paying attention. And that's the end of part 2 of our Epstein series.
Get a due process and lock up everyone that's found guilty. That's all I can say.
It's really bad.
And it should be more public.
Mm-hmm.
Should be a public display, of justice.
Mm-hmm.
We need to see them cuffed and walked in. And
are you surprised by anything I told you?
No. I used to be.
Yeah.
But I've heard, eating babies and that's the worst shit. If it ever.
Well, we're going to talk about that in part 3. But everything I told you in this part is all verifiable and witness statements and all the things.
Crazy.
And I didn't even name everybody who's named. I just talked about big players.
That is one of the craziest things I ever heard.
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
If it's true, skin them alive.
Well, in the next part, we are going to, I have some bullet points of things we're going to talk about. A couple people have asked me questions online based on part 1, so I want to make sure to address those things.
Okay.
So, we're going to do that in part 3. All right, everybody, stay tuned for part 3. This ended bleak. This is bleak.
It's not a happy subject.
No, this is tough.
And it makes it more infuriating because it's going on right in front of us and they're like, what you gonna do, bitch?
Yeah, that's what it feels like. So, yes, this one ended bleak. We'll be back for part 3 to do some more discussing. But check us out on Instagram at Wife of Crime Pod, Facebook at Wife of Crime, The Crime Family, and Patreon at Wife of Crime Pod, and ClutchDefenseCo.com for your clutch defense
Get one
product.
for your ladies, fellas. This way, something ever happens, you know exactly where they're at, and you're not just relying on the police. The police would be one part of the equation.
Yeah, definitely.
So at least you would have some information too.
All right, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Peace.